The US Congress is about to pass Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. And while most attention has been focused on massive tax cuts and spending, buried deep inside this legislation lies a provision that could devastate Caribbean economies like Jamaica. A proposed 5% tax on remittances, money sent home by immigrants working in the United States. For Jamaica and other Caribbean nations, this represents an economic earthquake that could push entire communities into poverty. For Jamaica, remittances aren't supplemental income. They're the backbone of the economy. In 2023, Jamaica received approximately $3.4 billion in remittances, representing 17% of the country's GDP. That's more than Jamaica earns from bauxite mining, sugar exports, and often tourism combined. And Jamaica isn't alone in this vulnerability. Other Caribbean nations face proportionally similar or greater risks. Dominica receives remittances worth about 8% of GDP, while Haiti depends on remittances for nearly 15% of its economic output. Even Trinidad and Tobago, despite its massive oil wealth, receive remittances worth 4% of GDP. These remittances dwarf traditional foreign aid. While international development assistance typically amounts to $100 to $200 million annually, remittances deliver 17 times that amount directly to families. Unlike government aid, filtered through bureaucracies, every remittance dollar goes straight into a household that desperately needs it. There are an estimated 1.2 million people of Jamaican descent living in the United States, one of the largest Caribbean immigrant communities in America. Of these, approximately 300,000 are documented immigrants with green cards or work visas, while other studies suggest another 50 to 75,000 may be undocumented. Now here is the crucial detail. The proposed tax would only apply to non-citizens who are sending money back home, regardless of legal status. This means even Jamaicans with green cards who've been legally working and paying US taxes for decades could face this additional burden. A Jamaican nurse who is in New York and supporting her elderly mother in Kingston would now pay a penalty for that family obligation. These workers are concentrated in essential sectors: healthcare, construction, hospitality, and transport, often working multiple jobs and sending home about 20 to 30% of their income. The average Jamaican worker in the United States sends home about $2,400 per year, though healthcare workers and skilled tradespeople might send $5,000 to $8,000 annually. Under the proposed tax, that average worker would pay an additional $120 per year just for supporting their family. For higher earners, the tax could reach $300 to $400 annually. Now, multiply this across the entire Jamaican diaspora. We're talking about potentially $170 million less flowing into Jamaica's economy annually, equivalent to roughly 1% of Jamaica's GDP vanishing overnight, enough to fund the country's entire education ministry for several months. Now, this isn't just macroeconomic statistics. It's about survival for millions of Jamaican families. In rural parishes like St. Elizabeth, St. Mary, and Manchester, entire communities depend on remittances for basic necessities. These funds pay for children's school fees, medical expenses, home improvements that create local construction jobs, and provides capital for small businesses. The ripple effect will also be felt through Jamaica's financial system, because remittances help to stabilize foreign exchange reserves that reduces pressure on the Jamaican dollar. A significant drop could force costly currency interventions, potentially triggering inflation. The corner shop owner in Spanish Town, the taxi driver whose busiest days coincide with money transfer pickups, construction workers hired for home improvements, all of these people will see their livelihoods threatened. The proposed tax could trigger a region-wide economic slowdown, potentially increasing poverty rates and ironically driving more people to attempt dangerous migrations to the United States, exactly the opposite of what the policy aims to achieve. Please remember to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. There is profound irony in this policy. Many Caribbean leaders, including Jamaica's government, have maintained cooperative relationships with the United States administrations. Jamaica has signed deportation agreements and participated in US-led security initiatives. Yet, this policy would penalize the very people who left Jamaica seeking the American dream. Many now model residents contributing to both the United States and Jamaican societies. The policy also contradicts broader US strategic interests in the Caribbean. Over the past decade, the United States has invested billions in Caribbean development programs to reduce migration pressures and counter Chinese influence. A remittance tax could undermine all these objectives by destabilizing Caribbean economies. However, this tax could also face enormous implementation challenges. Caribbean remittance flows happen through a complex ecosystem of formal and informal channels. While companies like Western Union handle significant volumes, much money flows through informal networks, hand-carried cash, and increasingly cryptocurrency platforms. Non-citizen Jamaicans in the US could also ask relatives with US citizenship to send money back home and avoid the tax completely. There is also serious risk that the tax could push more transfers on the ground, making them harder to track while making transfers more expensive for families. Some governments are exploring alternatives, including blockchain based on systems that could circumvent US financial institutions entirely. Now, this remittance tax represents a fundamental shift in America's approach to global capital flows, because for decades, the United States has championed free movement of capital across borders and pressuring other countries to eliminate restrictions on money transfers. This tax would significantly mark a significant departure from that philosophy, potentially legitimizing other countries' capital restrictions and opening the door to more extensive US capital controls. If America can tax money leaving the country, what is stopping other nations from implementing similar measures? For Caribbean nations, this starkly illustrates the risk of economic dependence on diaspora communities. While remittances have provided crucial stability, over-reliance leaves these nations vulnerable to policy changes beyond their control. Now, the proposed tax still faces significant hurdles, legal challenges and implementation complexities. Courts might view it as double taxation since migrant workers already pay income tax on money that they're sending home. But regardless of whether this becomes law, its proposal signals changing American attitudes towards immigration and international money transfers. For Jamaica and other Caribbean nations, this serves as a wake-up call about building more resilient, diversified economies that thrives regardless of external policy shifts. What began as a small provision in a spending bill could fundamentally reshape Caribbean economies and millions of family relationships spanning 2 continents. While the tax future remains uncertain, its potential impact reminds us how Washington policy decisions can have profound consequences for families from Kingston to Port-au-Prince who depend on relatives working in America.